Welcome back. FBI Director Robert Mueller today said it read like a Hollywood script, an alleged Iranian plot to hire assassins from a Mexican drug cartel to assassinate the Saudi Arabian ambassador here in Washington. 2 men have been charged with the plot, and one is a dual American-Iranian citizen. The other man, who has not been apprehended, is a member of the Quds Force, Iran's Special Operations Unit. There are still a lot of questions about this, not the least of which is how high up in the Iranian government this plot goes. To help us understand what's going on, we're joined by NBC national investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff, best in the business. Michael, what do we know about this plot? It involved a restaurant here in town, almost like a gangland-style assassination attempt, like you do in the mob days.
Look, the restaurant is something that was the FBI informant's suggestion. It was a fictional restaurant. There was no real restaurant. And that's one of the problems in sorting out this case. Clearly, there was something real there. And this is a wild case, you know, from the Mexican Zetas cartel to the, Saudi ambassador, the Israeli ambassador.
But the Iranian agents
there are all
were
sorts of
$1.5 million to knock off somebody.
Allegedly, although if you read the complaint closely, it's not clear that they were willing to put up $1.5 million for this. That was the suggestion of the informants, and that's, as I was trying to say, that's one of the difficulties in sorting through this here. What we know is this Iranian American in Corpus Christi, a used car salesman apparently, makes contact with a federal drug informant out of Texas and says he wants to plan an attack against the Saudi ambassador in the United States. Now, in the original conversation, according to his confession, all he talked about was kidnapping the Saudi ambassador, Adel al-Jubeir. At some point in the conversations with this informant, it becomes a much more elaborate and deadly plan to bomb, to assassinate, and carry out other attacks.
How did the Iranian official from the Quds Force get involved? That's what interests me.
This guy, the chief suspect, the used car salesman, is traveling back and forth between the United States and Iran, and is allegedly meeting with the Quds Force commanders. And just late today, the Treasury Department announced designations against some of those high-level Quds Force commanders who they say were coordinating the attack and supervising it. And it clearly goes, according to the Treasury Department announcement, high up in the Quds Force. One of them had been previously designated by the Treasury Department for plotting a mass attack on U.S. soldiers in Iraq and had previously been designated. Another Quds Force commander had been previously accused of human rights abuses in Syria, suppression of protesters there. So this clearly, according to the U.S. government allegations, goes high up in the Quds Force. Now, does that mean that the Iranian government itself...
what's there in the Iranian government itself and the Quds Force?
There are a lot of factions in Iran.
But these are public officials who get paid.
These are clearly public officials. These are clearly people who are in positions of responsibility in the Iranian government. But what's not clear is whether they were operating on their own. You know, for instance, take an analogy. If this was the United States government, was it a rogue operation by the Quds Force? Or was it sanctioned by the mullahs?
Hey, look, if we knocked off or tried to knock off somebody inside Iran who was an ally of Iran, that would be a huge international...
Of course.
They would make the biggest stink about that in the world in the UN, right?
Absolutely.
So what are we going to do about it in terms of international? Are we going to go after Iran on this, or just make it a criminal case?
Well, they've certainly made it a criminal case.
But what about the government of Iran? Are we going to hold them responsible as an enemy, or just talk about a political, or rather a criminal investigation? This is a Dick Tracy case.
Look, we've been squeezing the government of Iran for some time over their nuclear program. We've been imposing sanctions against the government of Iran. They've gone pretty far in what they think they could do without provoking some sort of military conflict with the Iranian government. I think this ratchets it up, but how far they're going to take this, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
When these two guys one of them will go to court. We've got him in custody,
right?
And
he's confessed.
And he will confess. And he's the one who nailed the other guy, that he's the other guy, fingered the other guy. So he's already talking.
Right.
So he will continue to talk, I assume, to get his sentence down.
Right.
Okay, so they negotiate with this guy. He's a rough-looking customer. They're going to bring him. They're going to bring him into the old Dick Tracy interview room.
Right.
And they're going to get him to tell everything. Right.
Right. And I think he already has told quite a bit. The question is how much, if you read the complaint closely, it is not entirely clear how much the Quds Force commanders who were supervising him, who were running him, were approving, were directing to him, and how much the federal drug informants, the undercover
somebody shows up with a promise of $100,000 in a down payment, with perhaps a longer promise of $100 million. Where's that money coming from? It comes from Iran.
It's coming from the Iranian government, right?
Yeah, well,
no, don't get me wrong. There is something clearly here. There's real meat here. I don't think this is made up or concocted. What I'm saying is there's a lot of ambiguity about what exactly.
Remember how World War I started? Assassination of an official in a foreign country. Thank you, Michael Isikoff.